Under Senate bills on second reading. Senate Bill 154, a bill relating to hunting wild animals and wild birds on private property and state waters on Sundays. Reported from the Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Natural Resources with an amendment. There is a floor substitute and floor amendments.
The Senator from Russell, Senator Puckett.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would ask the committee amendment be agreed to.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall the committee amendment be agreed to? All those in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee amendment is agreed to. The Senator from Augusta, Senator Hanger.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would first ask permission to withdraw the floor substitute that I offered yesterday.
Thank you, Senator. Without objection, the floor substitute will be withdrawn.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would now ask that we waive the reading of floor amendments 1 and 2.
Senator, I need to go to the Senator from Stafford first, and we'll come right back to you.
Mr. President, I would defer to this gentleman from Augusta.
Thank you, Senator. The Senator from Augusta, Senator Hanger.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would move that we waive the reading of floor amendments 1 and 2.
Senator Stewart's floor amendment is passed by temporarily. Thank you, Senator. The motion was made to waive the reading of the floor amendment. All those in favor of the motion shall say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The reading of the floor amendment is waived. The Senator from Augusta, Senator Hanger.
Thank you, Mr. President. We finally got to it. I appreciate your indulgence. I would first move that we move to pass the floor amendments 1 and 2, and I'd like to speak to that.
The Senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the Senate. This is the bill, of course, that we temporarily were addressing yesterday until we entered our conundrum about procedurally how we could get to it. This bill, the underlying bill, of course, all of you are aware, I believe, or I will attempt to make you aware, would allow Sunday hunting throughout the Commonwealth under certain conditions. The amendments, just to cut to the chase, the amendments that I'm offering will not do damage to that. I've come to the conclusion, we've waged this battle for a number of years, and I recognize it appears that the majority seems poised to allow Sunday hunting. So with that, I'm offering what I view as common sense amendments to allow that, but with the approval of the local governing body where that hunting on private land would take place on Sunday. And I hope you will pay close attention to the just brief argument that I will make, and perhaps others would like to address this. The Commonwealth is vastly different. I am a sports enthusiast. In fact, I co-chair the Sportsman Caucus, and Mr. President, you know, some of us show up at 7 o'clock every Thursday morning to talk about issues relative to supporting sporting for whether you be hunting or other forms of recreational types of pursuits that are available to us throughout the Commonwealth. But it's a shared resource, Mr. President. It's a shared resource. And I believe, because of the diversity of the Commonwealth, it's a decision that if we're going to do this should be left to the local government. Why? We have community standards. Virginia is different in different places, and I would suggest to you, while it's become routine where a couple of my children live in Northern Virginia, to mow your yard on Sunday, up in the valley, your neighbors look at you funny if you get out there and try to mow your yard on Sunday. We just have a different standard that we adhere to. Some of it's religiously rooted, obviously, and I think that is still something throughout the Commonwealth that we adhere to traditions that have long been established as far as observance of the Sabbath. But there are other issues as well that I think make it well suited for local governments to make the decision whether it's suited for that particular locality. Local law enforcement needs to be involved. There's no question that when we have people out hunting, whatever day of the week it is, that local law enforcement has to be heightened. There are public safety issues that are to be addressed. Also, the geography, obviously, of the Commonwealth is different in different parts of the state, Mr. President. And I would assert to you that the local governing body is in a better position to address some of those differences. An example, we're confining this to private property. private property in the western part of the state, west of the Blue Ridge, may be a very intensive farm operation with a little field that might be a few acres, and the bullets don't know where the fence line is. And indeed, Mr. President, in many instances, these properties are up against public lands where recreational uses are made routinely, and so that you're creating safety issues there that I think can be left addressed by local governing bodies. So with that, Mr. President, I would ask the body to adopt the floor amendments.
Thank you, Senator. The Senator from Franklin, Senator Stanley.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise to speak against the amendment.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you very much. Mr. President, members of the body, the General Assembly approaching this issue should not shirk its responsibility and pass the decision on to counties. We do not want this debate rehashed 133 times between the 95 counties and 38 independent cities. There will be considerable confusion that will result from those in various counties from hunters and non-hunters. Enforcement concerns will occur, especially around county lines, as it's been stated earlier, Mr. President. Some folks have property that span county lines. So a person that has private property that crosses in from one county to another can hunt on part of their land, but not on the other part of their land if that one county does not allow Sunday hunting. In addition, many hunt clubs cross over county lines, increasing the probability of unintentional violations, and that's not what we're here to do. Ladies and gentlemen, we're either going to allow our Virginians to hunt on Sundays or we're not. It should be a statewide lifting of the prohibition. What we will have is an inequity between one county to another, great confusion, and we will be revisiting this issue over and over and over again in the counties of Virginia. And for that reason, I ask that we oppose the amendment. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. The senior senator from Virginia Beach, Senator Wagner.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I rise to speak also against these floor amendments. Mr. President, flashback. Sorry, those things happen. It was 9-10 years over across the hall, and old memories, bad memories die hard, Mr. President. So, but to go on, I rise to speak against these, and let me tell you why. I mean, we've heard a lot about the different geography and that kind of thing. I'm talking about the 100 employees I have and all the other people that work Monday through Friday down in the shipyards. These are outdoorsmen. These are hunters. These are people that live for the start of hunting day. Trust me, I know when the opening day of deer season is because I can't get any work done in the shipyard. I understand school systems across the Commonwealth have shut down and all of those kinds of things. These people work all week long, and they live for the hunting season. That is their one major recreational activity. They spend an inordinate amount of their income on weapons, on camping gear, on deer stands. I could go on and on hunt clubs. And it is their active pursuit. And for years, I've heard from these folks over and over again, when are you going to allow us to go hunt on Sunday? When are you going to give us that opportunity to go do that, boss? You know, and we'll stop taking Fridays off. We'll start getting, it's amazing the flu that goes around in October and November that seems to strike on a Thursday or a Wednesday afternoon, and people just don't show up for work. And all they're asking for is that opportunity to go do what it is they like to do on a Sunday. And that's a lot of folks in this Commonwealth across, and I don't care where you live, that are working Mondays through Fridays and working the long hours, all the kinds of jobs that we talk about here day in and day out. Let's give them that opportunity, if they so choose, to actually go out and do what it is they love to do, and that is to enjoy the great outdoors here in the Commonwealth of Virginia and enjoy a pursuit that they love to do. And so, Mr. President, I would hope we defeat these floor amendments.
Thank you, Senator. Senator from Louisa, Senator Garrett.
Thank you, Mr. President. Speaking against the amendment.
Senator has the floor.
Mr. President, earlier today, I made the statement that the expression "my values" contains two words, and the first word is "my," meaning they're mine. And I think this might be the third time this session that I've recited the Establishment Clause to the Constitution. Congress shall make no laws establishing a religion nor prohibiting the free practice thereof. And I don't understand how, and I'm going to speak more specifically to the amendments in a second, the concept of banning hunting on Sundays survives that, survives constitutional scrutiny to that, because, as was argued with another bill earlier on, this would tend to give preference to one faith. My Sabbath contains two words. The first word is mine, but my Sabbath is not the same as other people's Sabbath. And some people, rightly or wrongly, choose not to have a Sabbath, but that's their right as Americans. And so nobody's suggested from the game department that I've heard that there's a public policy interest in alleviating the pressure on the wildlife. If somebody said, hey, we need a day off a week so that the deer and the rabbits and the quail and the doves and the turkeys can rest, I'd say okay. But Sunday wasn't picked randomly. Sunday wasn't picked randomly. It was either picked for religious reasons, which I don't believe survive the scrutiny of the Establishment Clause because it favors one religion over another, or it was picked, and this is what I believe, because the 5-day work week's only about 100 years old. And so because there didn't used to be a 5-day work week, the people who were wealthy and the people who had free time and the people who could make decisions on how they recreated 7 days a week could hunt whenever they wanted. But the men and women who were working 6 days a week, because that was the law of the land, were frozen out. The working class person was frozen out. So I don't even frankly personally believe that this has to do with the Sabbath. This has to do with the people who had the money, not one of the people who didn't have it killing the deer. And that's not a good reason to make public policy either. Now, the local option. Almost exclusively, you'll hear me stand up and say, I'm not terribly sure what makes us think that we here in Richmond know better than they know in Grayson or Giles or Fluvanna or Buckingham about what to do in Grayson or Giles or Fluvanna or Buckingham. The exception here is this. Our game laws are uniformly enforced primarily by the Department of Conservation Police. The conservation police officers in rural areas have multiple jurisdictions that they cover. And this is a real burden on those men and women who serve in those uniforms to protect our wildlife and the resources of the collective Commonwealth, to mean that they could drive down Route 208 and 1 second be in one county and another second be in another county, and somebody might have a piece of property that's in one piece is in one county and another piece is in another county. And so we're really unduly burdening the state law enforcement entity primarily responsible for enforcing these laws. That's another reason that while I support local options, this isn't like having a local option for the ABC store. You just lock the door and say it's closed on Sunday. This is a local option for the conservation police who have to enforce across a wide gamut of localities. And so ultimately, the question becomes, why did we not have Sunday hunting to begin with? And then the question becomes, if we're going to eliminate Sunday hunting, can we effectively do so without hamstringing the men and women who enforce these laws on a locality-by-locality basis? And I think the ultimate answer has to be no. They got a tough job already. And so with the utmost respect to the patron and the personal sentiment that it's important to remember the Sabbath, my Sabbath isn't everybody else's Sabbath. And so I would oppose the amendment.
Thank you, Senator. The senior senator from Loudoun, Senator Black.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll be brief. I do intend to vote against the amendment, but I would like to correct something that the senator just said. I think there's a widespread misperception that the ban on Sunday hunting is principally driven by the churches. I have not found that to be true. What I have found is that you have equestrians and you have outdoors people who go out on Sunday, and they like to be able to go out and not worry about having a bullet come flying through through the bushes. And so I stand solely for the purpose of correcting what I think is an erroneous belief that this is driven by the churches. I don't believe that it is. I believe that it is driven by other considerations. But at the same time, I do support Sunday hunting, and and I think it should be broad as possible, and so I would encourage voting against the amendment.
Thank you, Senator. The senator from Stafford, Senator Stewart.
Thank you, Mr. President. Rise to speak to the amendment.
The senator has the floor.
Mr. President, I support the senator from Augusta's amendment, and I actually wasn't going to speak to it until I heard the senator from Louisa speak, and he's exactly right. This is a burden on law enforcement. But let me tell you where the burden lies. It lies as an unfunded mandate to the localities. The conservation police, the game wardens, are the second line of defense in policing these issues. If you live in rural Virginia and somebody comes on your farm with a gun, you don't call the game warden. You call the sheriff's office. And in rural Virginia, you're lucky to have one deputy on duty on a Sunday because not much happens. But now what you're going to ensure is that they're going to have two deputies on duty, one to work on the road, the things that happen, one to answer the trespassing calls for the people who are coming on somebody's land with guns. And if you want to do it, that's fine. I am resolved to the fact that this General Assembly is going to allow hunting on Sundays. I have no preconceived notion that Senate Finance is going to find the money to give to these localities to fund these sheriff's offices to put the extra deputy on the road. So at least give those localities a choice. If that Board of Supervisors wants to fund that sheriff's deputy for Sundays, because the game wardens are now working 6 days a week, you can't expect them to work 7 days a week. I think this is exactly the right thing to allow them to decide who can afford to do it and who can't.
Thank you, Senator. The senator from Russell, Senator Puckett.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise to speak against the amendment. I won't reiterate a lot of things that have already been said, but this is an issue that has been thoroughly debated for a long time, not just in this session. But a couple of things I think are significantly important. I hope everyone in this body who represents the locality has law enforcement working on Sunday. I believe we do in Russell County, for example, and we have more than one, and I'm sure there's more than one in other counties. But I would say to you, this is not necessarily a burden. The burden is when you open this up to all kinds of, resolutions or whatever the local board wants to say about it. How in the world is a law enforcement person going to know when you've got maybe 100+ different ordinances across the state? That's the burden that law enforcement people are going to face. So that issue, we have crossed that in the committee. We've heard Game and Inland Fisheries say that that's not an issue for them. I personally have had no sheriff or anyone call and say, don't do this. It's going to, wreck everything we do in the county from law enforcement. So I don't think that's a reality. The other thing that I want you to know, we have tried to draw this as tight as we can so that we don't infringe upon anyone else's right. And if there's a group of landowners in any county in the Commonwealth that doesn't want somebody hunting on their land, all they have to do is refuse permission. So I would ask you to consider the issue from a standpoint of the real facts in this case, and I think you'll find that the majority of the people across the Commonwealth don't object to Sunday hunting. And with that, again, I'd renew my request that you vote no on the amendment.
Thank you, Senator. The senator from Augusta, Senator Hanger.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members of the Senate, it's Friday, so I will be brief. Mr. President, right. No, this brevity is just, I want to express one opinion, and that opinion is, Mr. President, that those who have spoken in opposition to these floor amendments are wrong. Those who have spoken in favor of them are right. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, should the floor amendments be agreed to? All those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. No. The noes have it. The floor amendments are not agreed to. The